Serbia, a name that conjures images of dramatic landscapes and even more dramatic history. It sits, rather significantly, at a geographic crossroads, a meeting point between Central and Southeastern Europe. This position has been both a blessing and, at times, a bit of a bother. It has made Serbia a vital transit route for centuries. Trade, armies and ideas have all flowed through its valleys and plains. This constant movement has profoundly shaped its economic story. Fertile plains in the north, watered by the mighty Danube and Sava rivers. These areas have always been the breadbasket, the agricultural heartland. Mountains and hills dominate the south, rich in minerals but less forgiving for large-scale farming. From the earliest settlements to the modern day, what Serbia could grow, mine or trade has been tied to its very soil and location. Understanding this is key to understanding its economic evolution. Quite interesting, really. For nearly 5 centuries, from the late 14th century onwards, Serbia was largely under the dominion of the Ottoman Empire. This was a period that profoundly shaped its society and, rather crucially, its economy. The Ottoman system was primarily geared towards extracting resources. Agriculture was the undisputed king of the economy. Most Serbs were peasants working the land. They cultivated grains like wheat and corn, tended orchards, and raised livestock. Life was tied to the seasons and the demands of an imperial power. The Ottoman land tenure system, known as the Timar system, was central to this agrarian economy. Land was technically owned by the Sultan and granted to military officers and officials, the sipahis, in return for their service. This system, while providing a framework for agricultural production, often led to heavy burdens on the peasantry. A rather long shadow, wouldn't you say? The 19th century was a period of immense change for Serbia. It was the century of national awakening and a gradual, hard-won path towards autonomy from the Ottoman Empire. This political transformation went hand in hand with significant economic shifts. As Serbia gained more control over its own affairs, starting with the first Serbian uprising in 1804 and achieving de facto independence later, it began to shape its own economic destiny. The focus, naturally, remained heavily on agriculture. With increased autonomy, Serbian rulers sought to modernize the agricultural sector. Land reforms were initiated, although they were often slow and complex. The aim was to create a class of small, independent peasant landowners. Agricultural output did expand during this period. Serbia became a notable exporter of livestock, particularly pigs, to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The first flickers of industry began to appear in the mid to late 19th century. The first railway line opened in 1884, a significant milestone. It was a period of building institutions, expanding agricultural exports, and taking the very first tentative steps towards an industrial future. The early 20th century thrust Serbia onto a much larger and far more violent stage. The Balkan Wars expanded Serbia's territory but strained its resources. Then came the cataclysm of the First World War. Serbia suffered immense losses and devastation. After the war, Serbia became the core of Yugoslavia. The interwar period saw reconstruction but was hampered by instability. The Second World War brought renewed devastation. Section 5. Building a New Order, Socialist Industrialization Post-WWII. With the end of World War II, Yugoslavia, with Serbia as its largest federal unit, embarked on a new path, a socialist path under the leadership of Josip Broz Tito. This meant a fundamental restructuring of the economy. Private ownership of the means of production was largely abolished. Banks, factories and large landholdings were nationalized. The state took control of economic planning. The initial model was heavily influenced by the Soviet Union. It prioritized rapid industrialization, particularly heavy industry. The post-war years saw a massive drive towards industrial development. Huge investments were poured into building factories, power plants and infrastructure. This was often achieved through centralized 5-year plans. There was a strong emphasis on sectors like steel, chemicals, machinery and armaments. This period witnessed significant economic growth. However, this rapid state-led industrialization was not without its problems. Section 6. The weight of a system stagnation and debt in the 1970s and 1980s. The economic dynamism of the early post-war decades waned in the 1970s. The oil crisis of 1973 hit hard, leading to inflation and balance of payments problems. Yugoslavia turned to foreign borrowing, accumulating external debt. Workers' self-management faced practical challenges, leading to inefficiency. By the 1980s, Yugoslavia faced a full-blown economic crisis and hyperinflation. The economic decline set the stage for political crises in the following decade. Section 7. The Storm of the 1990s. Economic disintegration. The 1990s were, to put it mildly, a catastrophic decade for the Serbian economy. The breakup of Yugoslavia was violent and protracted. Wars erupted in Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and later Kosovo. Serbia under Slobodan Milosevic was heavily involved in these conflicts. This had devastating economic consequences. International sanctions were imposed by the United Nations against the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, which then consisted of Serbia and Montenegro. These sanctions were comprehensive. They covered trade, financial transactions and travel. The impact of sanctions was crippling. Serbia was cut off from international markets, exports collapsed, imports of essential goods including fuel and raw materials became scarce. Industrial production plummeted, many factories ground to a halt due to lack of inputs or markets. Unemployment soared. The government resorted to printing money to finance its expenditures, including the war efforts. This led to one of the most extreme hyperinflationary episodes in history. In early 1994, prices were doubling every few hours. The country was isolated, impoverished, and facing a monumental task of reconstruction and reform. Section 8. Picking up the pieces, the difficult path to a market economy, 2000s. The fall of Slobodan Milosevic in October 2000 marked a turning point for Serbia. A new democratic government came to power. It inherited an economy in ruins. The challenges were immense. The immediate priorities were to achieve macroeconomic stabilization, end international isolation, and embark on comprehensive market-oriented reforms. The early 2000s saw a period of rapid, albeit catch-up, growth. Sanctions were lifted. International financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank re-engaged. Foreign aid flowed in. The government implemented a series of ambitious reforms. These included price liberalization, trade liberalization, and banking sector reforms. A major privatization program was launched, aiming to transfer state-owned and socially owned enterprises into private hands. Despite the difficulties, progress was made. Inflation was brought under control, the currency was stabilized. The path to a fully functioning and competitive market economy was proving to be longer and more arduous than initially hoped. Section 9. Navigating the 21st Century Growth Aspirations and Challenges, 2010s-present. The 2010s were a decade of mixed economic fortunes for Serbia. The recovery from the global financial crisis was slow. Growth rates remained modest for several years. The country grappled with fiscal consolidation. Public debt had risen significantly. The government implemented austerity measures to control the budget deficit. A key goal for Serbia has been European Union accession. Serbia applied for EU membership in 2009 and started negotiations in 2014. The EU accession process has driven major reforms. It requires harmonization of Serbian laws with EU standards. This process has increased trade with the EU. Key sectors include agriculture and IT. The services sector, particularly IT, has seen dynamic growth. Serbia has attracted foreign direct investment into manufacturing. Recent developments have seen Serbia achieve more robust growth. The journey is ongoing. Section 10. Conclusion: Serbia's economic tapestry, resilience, and the road ahead. Serbia's economic journey, as we've seen, is a rich and rather eventful tapestry. It's woven with threads of ancient agrarian traditions, imperial legacies, and bold, sometimes painful, attempts at modernization, from the fertile plains cultivated under Ottoman rule to the socialist factories of Yugoslavia, and now to the complexities of a globalized market economy. Serbia has undergone profound transformations. Its strategic location, a blessing for trade, has also made it a stage for conflict, each leaving indelible marks on its economic landscape. It's a story of remarkable endurance. the path has rarely been smooth. Periods of growth and prosperity have often been punctuated by devastating wars, economic crises, and political upheaval. Yet, from those depths, Serbia has managed to rebuild. It has embarked on the difficult transition towards a market-based system. It has re-engaged with the international community. This resilience, this ability to pick up the pieces and start again, is perhaps one of the defining characteristics of its economic narrative. The road ahead will undoubtedly have its own twists and turns, quite a journey and one well worth watching.